Okay, welcome again to the Tony Talks 2 episode. And today we're very, very fortunate to have with us a veteran of over 20 years of network marketing experience. I mean, he's been doing this longer than I've been alive on this planet. Why does nobody believe that? But 20 years, he literally is a veteran. So please put your hands together and welcome up the one and only Mr. David Bibby. David.
Hey! Apologies for being late earlier.
Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed for the Tony Talks 2 session. Now, this is really an opportunity for you to give us a little bit of information about you, your background, where you're from, not necessarily about your business side of things, but who you are as an individual, so our listening audience and viewers out on the YouTube world will get to know who you are. So I've got a series of questions here that I'll openly ask you. Please answer as truthfully as you're able, obviously, without revealing too many personal secrets, unless of course you want to. So, David, this must be on everybody's minds. How old are you? Because you expressed this wonderful white beard. Are you willing to tell us actually how old you are?
Oh, I just flipped 60.
Oh, okay.
Which kind of astonishes me, to be honest. Yeah, it kind of crept up without me knowing about it.
Okay. And where were you born in these wonderful 60 years?
You can probably tell from the accent, I was born in Devon. I was born in Exeter.
Exeter, okay. And have you lived in Exeter all your life?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
You're not ventured anywhere else?
Well, one of my early jobs was in the Navy, so I kind of travelled the world a bit. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, can you call living on board a ship living somewhere else?
So, how long were you in the Navy for?
Not very long, actually. I was only in it for just over 4 years.
Still fairly long, right?
Yeah, I kind of joined straight from school, so I was just touching 16 when I decided that the Navy was for me.
Okay. What was it that drew you to the Navy in the first place?
Excitement of travel, I suppose. I spent my entire life on the planet living in Exeter, spending all my holidays in Devon. And I just thought, wow, wouldn't it be nice to be paid, actually travel around to see the world for free? So yeah, that was, and it was really weird because I'd never ever been away from home ever before.
Oh wow!
I suddenly up sticks, travelled to the other side of the country to Gravesend, because I was in the Merchant Navy, not the Royal Navy.
Oh, okay.
I spent 9-10 weeks in Gravesend training, and then shipped off to various ports to then join ships to travel mostly around the Mediterranean, it has to be said.
That's still nice.
It was quite a shock because none of my family had ever done it. It wasn't as if my family was traditionally, in the Navy or anything like that. It was just, I don't know, I must have seen it on an advert somewhere for the careers officer used to come round to the school, and I just looked at it and thought, wow, that just looks awesome.
And was there any experiences whilst you're in the Navy that opened your eyes a bit to life, or anything that you can maybe share?
Yeah, I think I learned early on that if you're going to stay in the Navy, you're going to stay single, because it's not a career for a married man.
Right.
Because you're virtually spending 7, 8, 9 months away from home at a time. So if you've got family, it just wasn't for that. And I was quite a family man. I didn't realise it until I actually joined the Navy. And while I was there, my father tragically died. I think I was just touching 18. So he died, and at the same time, I met the lady who is now my wife, Rosie. So kind of emotions got the better of me, and I had to make a decision. I was either going to stay in the Navy, be a single man, or else I was going to leave and help Mum bring up the younger brother, which is Michael, and obviously be with the woman that ended up being my wife for 39 years.
Wow. Wow. So I mean, that seems to, you sort of answered my question, I suppose. But one of my questions was, who was your first true love? So is your wife listening? You allowed to say
She's
so?
not, because I'm going to get in trouble now, because my first true love were Exeter City Football Club. I was a football nut. I absolutely loved football. And
Oh,
Exeter City were my first trip. Luckily, my wife does quite put up with it, and she does like football, and she goes to I've been to the bigger games.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so she always knows that football at Exeter City was my first big love.
So you were never seduced by one of the big clubs, I suppose, because Exeter's obviously
No,
not classed as a
I
big.
mean, when you're at school, you always have a big club, so that when you're talking to all the other lads, you can kind of like talk on their level. So I suppose I always used to sort of quite like Chelsea, but that was only primarily so that when the lads were talking about big clubs, I had party to the conversation. But at the end of the day, it was always Exeter City, and yeah, it's a bit of a trial supporting Exeter City, but you know, at least when they do have successes, they are pretty fantastic.
Yeah. So are you a
Sorry?
season ticket holder now or not? You
No,
not
not
playing
anymore.
any
No,
games? No.
I don't go football very much at all. No, I watch from it. I take an interest from afar. I've kind of fallen out of love with football because of all the things that are going on within the game and the money, and yeah, I think it's been a bit spoiled, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a bit disproportionate, rich at the
Yeah,
top and the poor at the
absolutely.
bottom. Indeed, indeed. Okay, let me ask you, what did you have any experience whilst growing up that you really hated that you want to share with us here today?
What did I hate growing up? Ideally, I was quite shy actually when I was growing up, and I was very nervous of girls. I didn't want to be nervous with girls, but I was very, very nervous with girls, and I was always one of these people who regretted not stepping forward, if you can imagine. So back in the days when we were growing up, people on here may not realize this, but we used to have a thing called a discotheque. And on Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays, you used to go into town to the discotheque. And so all the boys would go in town, and all the girls would go in town, and you'd all be stood by the bar having a drink, looking at the girls, and the girls would be looking at you. And the boys that were really confident would go over and ask the girls for a dance, and they'd get a dance. And the rest of us would stand on the sidelines, just drinking more, hoping that eventually some kind of strength and willpower would force us on, and it never did. And we used to go home quite disappointed and deflated. So yeah, the fact I was reasonably shy amongst girls, but there you go.
So what lesson would you sort of put across to any young people that might be listening to you here today on that subject alone? Because you were saying you were shy, but what would you sort of give as advice?
Changed a lot now with social media circumstances. I guess failure is a part of life. Accept failure as a part of life. Don't ever die wondering. Don't ever, just go up and do it. And if you get a knockback, fine, absolutely fine. But at least you're not going to wonder, because at the end of the day, I think sometimes when you're sat there thinking, shall I or shan't I? Shall I ask? Shall I not ask? The person you're thinking about is probably thinking exactly the same thing. They don't do it, you don't do it, and then you'll pass. So don't die wondering. At the end of the day, accept that failure is just a part of life, and the people that just go and try and grab it with both hands will just accept it. As simple as that, to be honest.
Yeah. That's quite a profound lesson, really. When did you realize that yourself? I mean, obviously you've gained a tremendous wisdom throughout the years, and at what point in your life do you think that sort of came to your realization, where you realize, you know what, there's no need to be shy, I can put my best foot forward and move on?
There'll always be moments in your life when you'll be shy. I mean, I don't know why. Sometimes it just comes over in waves. I mean, without jumping the gun, I went on to do other jobs. I became a football referee for about 12 years. And I kind of just decided that, you know, 'cause talking about failure with girls, I actually used to go out with the wrong girls. You know, I went out with girls I didn't get on with. And it was only, but it was really weird because I met my wife through going out with one of her friends. I didn't particularly envisage staying with her friend, but she was a nice girl. We used to socialize together. But because I did that, I actually then met my wife through her. So I guess, you know, you could say circumstances prevailed. That if I'd never met her, it wouldn't happen. So yeah, I think life is all about experiences and learning, and you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but don't die wondering about hindsight. You know, just at the end of the day, do it, get on with it, and accept it, and just dust yourself down and just carry on. You know, at the end of the day, I would rather have millions of failures,
Yeah,
than you know, die of boredom and just wondering what might have happened.
indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to ask you about you've described your first career, and you did that for just 4 years. What did you do after that, though? Once you
I
came
came
back?
out and I came out and did a couple of little things. I used to drive a van, a delivery van for a local bakery, which was really weird because I used to go out in the delivery van and I used to deliver bread and cakes to the various shops. So I got to meet a lot of people in the shops, and that's where the banter started. I then had an older brother that used to do a thing called open air markets. You may or may not remember them, all around the country. Used to have open air markets, which were the forerunners of car boot sales, where people would have stalls and they would sell various products. My brother used to sell, funny enough, women's clothing. So we used to travel all around the country, setting up fairs, selling ladies' clothing. So again, I got to interact with a lot of the general public, and I think that's where my confidence grew, and my ability to communicate with people grew, because obviously if you're not talking to people, you're not selling anything, are you? So you know, you were forced to engage with people about the products you were selling, and the bakery was actually the same. But they were forerunners, really. They were stopgap jobs until I joined the prison service. I guess my career was with the prison service, and that was, you know, only 20 years.
Wow. Okay. So that the prison service was just at what point in your life was that? Because obviously that was quite a large life span of time, 20 years in the prison service.
Yeah, I think I was about 23, 24 when I joined the prison service.
Okay. And you did that for 20 odd years.
20 odd years, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Did that, I mean, that must have been quite eye-opening at times, surely, because you're dealing with inmates, which can't have been an easy
Yeah,
thing.
but I think the lucky thing was there when I joined the prison service, I was lucky enough to go to Exeter Prison, which at the time was, they used to call it a dead man's shoes job, because it was such a sought after job that most of the staff there were very experienced, and the only way of getting to Exeter Prison is if somebody died and a vacancy occurred. I happened to make an application for Exeter Prison and they got accepted. Normally at the age of 23, 24, you get sent to the London prisons. I got lucky and got sent to Exeter. What that meant then was I was working with people who had been in the job for 25 plus years. So I learned an enormous amount from people with huge experience. And I guess you could link it to this job. I listened to those people. I listened to what they told me.
Yeah.
You know, and they taught me a hell of a lot about how to work within a prison environment, deal with prisoners. Because if you go in there thinking that you're going to beat them all up, bash them all up, physically tell them what you're going to lose, because you're going to be outnumbered. You know, there's 70 or 80 prison officers and 600 prisoners to lose. So you have to learn to be able to communicate. You have to learn to be able to talk, in order to get people to do what you want them to do. So, you know, I got an awful lot of experience from older people that I was working with.
So that
I listened as well.
Yeah, well, indeed, which is what we touched on in the training today. But that, I mean, obviously prison service can be quite stressful. Did you have any encounter any scary situations at all during your time?
We haven't got enough time on here to talk about the scary.
Oh wow. Well, do you want to give us a taster? Is anything, you know, one or two that could you?
Well, has everybody had their tea?
Oh, do we have to put X-rated for YouTube on this now?
No, I mean, I did suffer with PTSD, but at the time I
Oh.
didn't know it was PTSD.
Oh wow.
I was basically doing a lunchtime watch, which is basically all the staff go for lunch. You have a minimum crew on staff. The prisoners are all locked up, and you're just there for that hour just to, you know, be around and have. Anyway, I was down the punishment wing, and I looked through one of the cell holes to see an inmate had tried to commit suicide by cutting his wrists. So I quickly pressed the alarm bell. The cell was full of blood. I didn't think I had a lot of time, so I pressed the alarm bell, quickly opened the door, ran in, and administered first aid to him. Basically, tried to stem the flow of blood coming from his wrists until help could arrive. Now, in a normal environment, if you did that and saved somebody's life, you'll get a pat on the back and somebody might say thank you. This inmate actually came around before any help arrived, realized he wasn't dead, wanted to die, so then attacked me.
Oh.
So we were now fighting on the floor of the cell, which was obviously covered in blood. So you can imagine how slippery it was. So we had a full-on fight, which seemed to go on for ages. Eventually, people came to assist me. But to cut a long story short, I can't remember getting home that night. And then the next morning when I went to work, I can remember arriving at work, but not knowing how I got there.
Wow.
No, you would call it PTSD. At the time, I never had a clue what it was. So I actually suffered that for several days because I couldn't get my head around it. I just saved your life.
Yeah.
But he clearly didn't want to be saved. So yeah, that was quite.
Wow. How old were you at that time?
Oh, probably late 20s by then. Yeah, late.
Oh.
And I've been involved in riots on the landings. I've been involved with riots on the exercise yards. You've got 300 prisoners. I've been surrounded by 20 prisoners that wanted to kill me. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I mean, what I have to say, what motivated you to go into work every day when you were in fear? Not fear, but you were in a circumstances which could turn nasty because of the people that you were dealing with.
Because 99% of prisoners are just like you and me. 99% of prisoners are there through circumstances. They're not all evil, nasty criminals. 99% of them there are due to circumstances of life. Anybody that says they'd never commit a crime is a liar, because we would all commit a crime if the circumstances were in such a way. And I won't list them, but I can guarantee that every single one of you on here would commit a crime if you really had to, and it was for what you consider a valid reason. So most of the prisoners in there were very good. Most of the prisoners just want to do their time. And again, as I said to you before, when you get a bit of banter, so I'll give you a very quick, for instance, we had a riot on the exercise yard. We had 400 prisoners who were refusing to move. Staff couldn't get them to move. The riot squad came in. The riot squad were being kitted up to go out and basically fight them. So I just went up to the governor and said, do you mind if I go out and speak to them? And the governor said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, isn't it worth an opportunity for me to speak to them? Of course, all the riot squad just wanted to go out and fight because that's what they're trained for. I knew who the ringleaders were, and I just basically went out there and I gathered the ringleaders together. And I still remember to this day what I said. It was a bit of a lie, but it worked. I said to them, I said, look, guys, because of what you're doing, we're going to get home late tonight. Now, you have to understand that there's a very important episode of EastEnders on tonight. And if I miss that episode, I'm going to make the rest of your life in this prison seem like hell. So either you get up or come in, or you are going to have a hell of a time for the rest of your sentence. They all burst out laughing because here I am talking about an episode of EastEnders. I've never watched EastEnders in my life. So they all said, but Mr. Bibby, we can't come in unless you give us something. So I said, well, what happens if I put chips on the menu for tea? Yeah, that'll do it. Put chips on and we'll come in. I just walked in and said to the governor, just put chips on for tea tonight. They're all coming in. And they all walked in behind me because I just bluffed my way through it. And that was how to diffuse a situation. Yeah, I still remember it. It was yesterday.
I was actually going to ask you about any funny stories, but you've just given us one there, really.
Oh,
that was
there's amazing. I used to get a lot of the prisoners around Christmas time, especially the new prisoners, to put their socks out on their cell doors, because I used to say that obviously it's not your fault you're locked up. If you put your sock out on the door handle of your cell door, you'll find some surprises in your socks in the morning. So quite a few of them used to. So I used to go around and fill them up with used tea bags and fag ashes and as much rubbish as I could find. And when they used to open the door in the morning on Christmas Day, and they used to say, "What's all this rubbish in here, Mr. Bibby?" I said, "Didn't you know Father Christmas doesn't look after bad people?" And it's just one of the jokes. So yeah, I used to get a lot of, yeah. I used to enjoy that, and I used to get a lot of feedback from the prisoners. It kind of broke the ice with a lot of people that were going through quite stressful times in their lives.
Brilliant. That's brilliant, because you're diffusing the situation as well, and you're making it almost palatable for people.
And also, what I said to you earlier on, when I was surrounded by 20 prisoners on a football pitch once, I had 50 prisoners that actually came to my rescue.
Oh, wow.
When you build up that understanding, the prisoners will actually put their lives on the line to save you.
Wow.
So yeah, lots of prisoners used to come up and tip me off if there was a problem, or they would stand in the way of someone trying to do me harm. So yeah,
wow,
it actually worked to my advantage in the end.
Okay. Right, let's move it on, because I'm mindful of time here. Obviously you've been in network marketing for 20 years, and you're obviously very experienced at that. If you had to give some advice to somebody starting out in a business like this, what would you give them as a piece of advice early doors?
Be patient. I mean, really be patient, and accept that you're going to fail quite a lot at the beginning. Accept you're going to make lots of mistakes. We all do it in life. Imagine starting a new job where you're the new person in that job and everything is brand new. And you go home and you think, oh, I'm never bloody going to get this. I've asked this guy umpteen times and I still keep getting it wrong. I feel like a bloody idiot. But you keep going on, don't you? And eventually you find yourself more experienced, and you suddenly find yourself, you're telling the new guys what to do. Simple little things like, what time do I go for lunch? Where's the staff canteen? Is it all right for me to go to the toilet? Do I have to do this? How many times? Do you know what I mean? It's the same with this job. Be patient. Accept that you're going to make loads of bloody mistakes until you learn how to do it right. You know, in a job, very few people, because they need the wage, they won't quit. They'll just keep putting up with it until eventually it gets better. In this business, people haven't got the patience to give it time, so they quit, not realizing that you're expected to get things wrong. You're expected to make mistakes. You know, you go out ready to deliver catalogs and you haven't bothered to check the weather. And as soon as you get out of the car, the heavens open and you haven't bought a bloody coat with you. Or you go out on a hot day and within 5 minutes of putting your catalogs out, you are sweating like a pig and you are dying of thirst. You didn't bring a bloody drink with you. But that all comes with patience. You know what I mean? You'll learn eventually to do those things. Now, a lot of you on here will take all of that for granted. We all take it for granted now. But for a lot of new people, it doesn't come as a natural thing. So yeah, for new people starting out, be patient and accept and expect failures, because that's the part of the learning process.
I think it's expectations are set too high at the outset, not knowing that there are challenges ahead. It's almost, I suppose, selling it to people where they feel that they're going to make loads of money really quickly and not realizing that they need to be patient, as you've said, and do the groundwork and do the work in order to make the thing work.
You may even find when you start, you bloody hate what you're doing. I did. I can remember getting out of the car for the first time with the catalogue, thinking, "What the bloody hell am I doing?" And I can remember the first Victor Meldrew shouting at me from across the street with his catalogue. "How dare you put a catalogue through my door? I'm a 6-foot prison officer. I'm going to come over there and bash your head in, mate. Who do you think you're talking to? Nobody talks to me like that." Well, you can do it in the prison service, but you can't beat up members of the public, I quickly discovered. So you have to accept
Not advisable,
it.
no.
But, you know, after a while of it happening 3 or 4 times, you then expect it to happen and you turn it into a joke and you physically laugh when he appears or she appears, because you know they're going to appear.
Yeah.
Even to this day, if you go onto a new housing estate for the first time, there's one in that street somewhere. It's our job to find them and then have a good laugh at their expense. But yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. All right, I'm going to ask you a similar question I've asked some of the others actually who I've interviewed previously. Without naming names, give an experience of someone inside or outside this business who drove you insane. So don't name names, but talk about the act. What did they do that drove you to drink almost?
I've recruited lots of people that have done that. You know, I've recruited the person that would inform me, "I'm going to make you rich, mate. Don't you worry about me, mate. I'm going to make you rich." And I think, oh my God, here we go. Another one that knows everything, that's going to tell me everything, who's going to reinvent the wheel, and they never last. But, "Oh, mate, I'm going to make you rich." No, you're not. You make yourself rich first. Don't worry. So those types of people,
Yeah.
we've all had those people. They just
Absolutely.
drive you around the bend. You know what I mean? They drive you absolutely crazy. Different people have infuriated me for different reasons at different times, and it would be unfair
Yeah.
to name some of them because name them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, don't name.
I remember
sure.
Bob Webb in the early days. You know, Bob Webb with his flash cars and his flash house. And he used to infuriate me because I knew Bob very, very well. And I knew his background from being a humble school teacher to doing cars on his spare time in the weekend to try and earn some extra money, to then joining this bit. And I used to say to him, "Bob, tell your story. Stop telling it what it is now. You talk about the 20 grand that you're earning and the holidays and the car. Tell your story, because it's an amazing story of this normal person." And it took him a long, long time. It was almost like he was embarrassed to tell it. And then when he did tell it, a lot of people then could connect with him. So that used to frustrate me. But the worst one of all is there's no names to these people. They're the people that join who immediately tell you they're going to make you rich. "I know more than you, mate. Don't worry about me." And you just think, "Oh my God." And I've never had one of those people actually ever make me rich.
Indeed. Right, I'm mindful of the time, so we've got to quickly wrap up, but I've got a couple more just to finish off. Who's your worst enemy? Who's your worst enemy? Is it yourself, or is there anyone else that you think, "Oh, I've got to be aware of that"?
Everybody's worst enemy is themselves. Everybody's worst enemy is themselves. Because
how is your worst enemy yourself then? What do you say or do?
Yeah, my worst enemy is myself, because you're always battling with those 6 inches between your ears. You're always constantly fighting those 6 inches. You're always constantly, but it's a good thing, because you actually can use it to your advantage if you realize that you are your own worst enemy. Because the only person that should want it more is yourself. You should want it more than anybody. You know, when you go out cataloging, you know, you should be fighting with yourself on how many catalogs. If you're not putting out catalogs, you should be fighting with you should always be fighting to want more. You should always be fighting to want to improve. You know, when you speak to that person who says no, you should be fighting with yourself as to did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? Could I wind back time and perhaps do it? So you're always learning, yeah, accepting, because there'll always be the no's, accepting there'll be no, but always never accepting or making do. Always want more, always fight for more, and always learn. One of the things that I always used to do in the early days was when I used to stand on stage and never talk at meetings, I could never watch myself because I am my own worst critic. I would stand there and go, oh my God, did I really say that? Oh, Jesus, did I really do that? Oh, bloody hell. So I am my own worst critic. So yeah, my worst enemy is myself.
Okay. How do you overcome that though? How do you overcome it? How do you overcome it?
I think I just learned to live with it. You know what I mean? I was listening to a rugby player, a local rugby player on Sunday, plays for Exeter Chiefs. And one of the questions that he asked him was about improvement. He said, oh my God, I can always improve. I can always get better. I can always do more. I can always try harder. You'll never ever get to a stage where you know everything. You've done everything. You should always be striving to do a bit more. And it doesn't matter. You know, if you're a brand new person and you do £100 in sales this coming period, then just aim to do more next period. Even if it's 101, that's a success. Don't accept 99. Do you know what I mean? And if you do 1,000, go for 1,000. If you're one of the top retailers, try and do a bit more. You know, if you're putting out flyers, try and do a bit more. And that's how you overcome it. Do you know what I mean? Never accept what life has got right. And also never accept that you can't achieve what you want. You know, wake up every day. If you want to be rich, wake up today saying to yourself, I think Delboy used to say it, didn't he? This time next year, Rodney, we're going to be
a millionaire. Yeah.
Well, tomorrow I'm going to pick up my biggest ever order from a customer. Tomorrow I'm going to recruit 1 million people. Tomorrow, you know what I mean? Always have that. Never accept, you know, your limitations. Just keep striving all the time.
Wonderful.
That gives you a real buzz and a reason for waking up in the morning.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right, final question before we have to wrap up here. If there's one takeaway you could leave everybody with, what would that be?
Never, ever stop learning. Somebody said to me once, you never know what you don't know. You never know what you don't know. So, you know, when sometimes people that are more experienced than you say, anytime, give me a call. Anytime, just give me a chat. You might be sat there thinking, I'd love to chat with David Bibby, but I wouldn't have a bloody clue what to say to him. Do you know what? I've had people pick the phone up and say that to me. 35 minutes later, we're still talking. Sometimes it's just making that initial phone call. Do you know what I mean? And I can remember in the early days, going back with Clean Easy, ringing up the likes of Bob Webb, Gavin Scott, and a few others. And I just said to him, help. Just need some help and advice. Tell me something. Give me some, you know. And I had some amazing conversations. And so when I used to go to the meetings back in the day, I did it with my team as well. I would always seek out the successful people and I would just go up to them and I would just simply say to them, hi, I'm David Bibby, help.
Wow.
And I would get them chatting to me and it was amazing. I would then realize that I had a circle of people around me, a bit like going back to the days of the discotheque, standing on the sidelines. These people wanted to ask the question, but didn't. I asked the question and now they all moved in wanting to listen to what the answers were. So don't sit back on the fence and die in the discotheque. Just ring the people. So if you're sat there right now and your retail is not so good, start ringing people. If your sponsoring is not so good, start ringing people. If you're not where you want to be in the business, start ringing people. But I'll tell you one thing, and this is really important. If you ring me And if you ring most experienced people, I'm not going to say successful, because success is an individual thing. I'm talking about experience. We won't give you any bullshit. So you better be prepared to be told the truth. So if you ring me up and say, David, I'm really fed up, my retail is crap, and my first question will be, how many catalogs are you putting out? And if you tell me 27, I'm going to tell you some home truths, because 9 times out of 10, I've told people that within 5 minutes of a conversation, I can discover what their problem is. And it ain't earth shattering. It's usually fairly simple. So be prepared to ask the questions, but also accept answers that you may not like.
Brilliant. Brilliant. David, thank you very much. If people could unmute, please give David a warm round of applause. Thank you, sir, for coming on and sharing your wealth of experience. And we got to know a little bit about you, which was lovely. So thank you once again for appearing on Tony Talks 2. Brilliant. Thank you, David. And I will now stop the recording.